Hello and welcome to My Turn, a film and TV podcast in which Remap analyzes works old and new and follows connections of some sort between them, but we actually have been on a kick with sports here for a bit and fandom. I'm your host, Rob Zachney, joined today by our producer, Chia Contreras.
Hello.
Janet Garcia.
Hello.
Patrick Klepek.
Bear down.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think this movie's about some people who have it worse. And Austin from Philly.
Go Birds!
So, today we're talking about Big Fan, the 2009 dark comedy starring Patton Oswalt, written and directed by Robert Siegel. It belongs to the genre of movies about obsessive, alienated men whose frustration and confusion culminates in acts of violence and delusion. Taxi Driver is sort of the prime text of this genre. Big Fan is a film of two halves. In the first half, we meet Patton Oswalt's Paul Offiero, a parking garage attendant living with his mom on Staten Island with nothing in his life except for the New York Giants and a talk radio sports show where he is a regular caller. He spends his days writing scripts in longhand to read on the air where he talks up his Giants and his favorite player, Quantrell Bishop. He and his only friend, Sal, hang out and go to the games, but they can't afford tickets, so they just sit in the parking lot. Paul's family is a kind of loud and boorish Staten Island clan that he detests, in large part because they are concerned and judgmental about his lack of anything going on in his life. Things take a dark turn when he and Sal see Bishop at a gas station on Staten Island and end up following him around for the night, eventually cornering him in a strip club to pay their respects. But Paul creeps Bishop out, appearing to threaten him, and in response, the half-drunk Bishop beats the shit out of Paul, badly enough to send him to the hospital. In the weeks following this encounter, the Giants go on a losing streak because Bishop is on the exempted list, basically, while the investigation plays out. An investigation that Paul cannot bring himself to participate in, feeling stricken with guilt that he caused his favorite player to not be available to his favorite team, even though the cops and his ambulance-chasing brother are all encouraging him to use the utmost of the legal system to get some sort of justice and redress for the assault. But in the end, Paul won't play ball and instead sweeps the entire incident under the rug and goes back to cheering for the Giants, hoping that with Bishop's return, everything will return to normal. But out of this humiliation, he also gets further obsessed with a regular caller who is calling into the same radio program he does, Paul from Philly. It's Phil. Philadelphia Phil.
Phil from Philly. Philadelphia, yeah. Philadelphia Phil, yes. Yes, Paul from Philadelphia. Philadelphia Phil. Phil. Yeah.
Philadelphia Phil eventually figures out that Paul from Staten Island is the dude who got the shit kicked out of him by Bishop, humiliates him on the air of the radio program, which is actually made even more humiliating by the fact that Paul's mom cuts into the middle of the call, and so the entire audience learns that Paul is in fact a loser living with his mother, calling in at 2 a.m. to this late night sports talk radio program. And in the wake of that humiliation, Paul decides to get a gun and head down to Philly to confront Philadelphia Phil. And what he does in the end, we will get to. I actually don't want to talk about the ending until we're actually talking about the ending. Okay. So let's put a pin in that. Big Fan. There's a lot of themes in this movie. I think one of the things that I'm curious how people reacted to, or if they're picking this up, I remember it mostly as being a film about just alienation and obsessions of fandom. Watching it this time, I'm also curious, to what degree is this a movie also about confusion over sexuality, gender, like intimacy?
Bro, Sal and Paul just need to stop fucking around and move in together. Yeah. Sal is so in love with Paul in this movie.
So in love.
It's so sad.
He stays up listening to that radio program. Here's boy call in.
And they like all but okay, so I have to put the cards on the table. We all have to be on the same page here. There's a lot of Patton Oswalt jerking off in this movie. And
He's so brave.
intuit
A lot.
that they shot a scene of Sal jerking off to Paul, and they decided not to put it in. There's a number of times where it feels like Sal laying down on the bed with sports radio on, listening into his friend Paul from Staten Island. There was a charge in the room, is all I'm saying. And they have good chemistry. They're the only. It's actually kind of heartbreaking. I spent a lot of this movie hating Paul, and never more than in the moment where I realized that in order to make the presumed viewer, or one potential part of the viewership, realize that Paul is the problem, they needed Sal to be more pathetic than him so that Paul could be mean to him. And if you were the last holdout being like, well, man, Paul's not such a bad guy, you realized, oh my God, he's being mean to Sal, but Sal is a perfect little angel. How could he be mean to Sal? I think that I think that things could be, maybe they still could be. I don't want to get to talk at the end of the movie, but maybe things could go better for them. Maybe they'll be able to speak what's true in their hearts one day. I believe in them. 2007 or 2008 or 2009, whenever this movie takes place, was a different time.
Yeah.
Well, but I actually think it's not so different though, in that like I wouldn't describe Paul as like closeted or anything like that. It's that he has no idea, like there's no conception of intimacy in his life. Like a thing that comes up a lot with his family is, what the fuck do you want? Like his family's loud and annoying in a lot of ways, but like in a lot of ways they're also trying to be helpful, not in an actually helpful way, but like people trying to offer him good jobs. But fundamentally the question comes up like, what do you want? You say you don't want a good job, you don't want a family, you don't like, so what is it you want?
Yeah.
And Paul's response is, I'm happy with my life the way it is, which kind of seems patently bullshit. But what he wants is kind of an open question, I think, throughout this movie.
And unlike, versions of that you would see in, if this movie was maybe written today, Paul would be an incel on the internet.
Yes.
I was going to say the male loneliness epidemic, or however we want to characterize it, was.
But what's
I think
not
this movie
here...
sits more resonant now than, or it continues to be resonant, just like given the current affections of like young males in America today.
But Paul is not watching Andrew Tate, and he's not on Reddit, and misogyny is not like at the center of this. There's maybe a couple of scenes where Paul has particular problems with his mother and his sister that you can read as certain sorts of misogynistic language, but like he is not obsessed with women in any way, or he doesn't feel like women have done him wrong. He doesn't have any sort of that, victim complex stuff that's so caught up in that space. And so it actually ends up feeling in a weird way like a period piece, because you have this archetype who today would be, all about that stuff on top of being the sports fanatic or something. So yeah, it is male loneliness epidemic before we said male loneliness epidemic. But when we still said men have problems, crying, men are socialized to blah, blah, blah. It's like we weren't talking about the stuff in the late 2000s.
Right. But I think part of what's different about what's interesting to view this movie through the lens of today and how we might view a similar sort of person, or how that character might be written in a 2025 version of it. Like he's pathetic, but and like there's a certain like shame that hangs over the movie. But like Paul is not malicious, right? Like he does bad things, but this is not like necessarily a person who wakes up every day like trying to lash out at the world. He feels the world lashes out at him, and there's similarities between how we talk about like young men these days and how they have an emptiness inside, and that's just an internet thing, like an emptiness that is then filled with the identities of other things that become your identity, and then you project that out to the world. But I think there's an interesting part of this where there's a shameful quality to Paul and how the movie perceives and shoots him, that the lack of shame, the lack of like wrestling with hypocrisy is like central to like the identity dynamics of a lot of similar young men these days, where they can find that validation in public spaces in a way that Paul desperately wants, but like cannot find the validation in the public space. Like there's a way I keep these fucking Jubilee clips, just keep coming through my feed because of the most recent the journalist name
Mehdi Hassan.
Yes, and like the cycle that like those young men go through, like predominantly young men go through, like they find a platform by like exerting that into a public space. Like Paul, part of the shame, part of the what makes him unique is that he's doing it all like in a closet, like basically like in a metaphorical closet, like in this room, and cannot find the public validation that he so desires. Like it can only happen through anonymity. And the dynamics these days are the ability to like move that into a public space, get validation, get a platform. Paul desperately wants the fucking platform.
Well, he has one. It's
it.
the sports talk show. It's Sports Talk, and that's it, right?
Sports Talk.
I do think he has, though, that becomes like more public facing, like in relation to his friend Sal, because he's like very obsessed with showing off to him.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'm just gonna do it off the top of my head like I always do, but he like writes it down.
Yeah.
And I think it also is like, I think it's clear that he wants to be like that guy in a way. And you see that like when he like goes to approach, the QB, where it's like it takes him so long to do it because like he's not that guy, and it's like he had so many opportunities to say hi to him, but he couldn't do it, which isn't like necessarily unique to being a loser. Like I think it's a very common like feeling of like, it's awkward to approach somebody who's like a higher status than you. You don't want to seem weird, and then he ended up seeming weird. But I also felt that like towards the end of the movie when he does eventually meet up with was it Philadelphia Phil?
Yeah.
Is that his handle? Yeah. Where I think he had that moment of realizing that like even though we're both cut from the same cloth of fandom, he's taking it a lot better. Like he's a lot more socially. Like the celebration of hanging out in a bar with a bunch of other fans versus his isolated celebration in the parking lot with like Sal is, I think he kind of realized, wow, like you're doing it different than me, even though we're doing a lot of the same things. So you would think we'd be the same, but we're not because I'm a little bit strange.
They are out there every weekend tailgating at the games when they're home games. They don't have other friends there. We don't ever see the two of them like enmeshed with a bunch of other people, even after the game. Well, good one. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Nor are they really drinking, right? Like a huge component of tailgating culture, Bill's tailgating culture in particular, is a very frat style of like, again, just go search like Buffalo Bills like tailgating. I do think it's interesting that yes, like the movie culminates in a bar. These two have like an obsession with football. They want to be in proximity to like the game, to the sport. Like drinking is not like actually a through line in their relationship. When like drinking / partying is an enormous through line for like many people's like relationship with sport, or at least like the social part of it. Like you can even take the alcohol part of it out. There's a social like component to sports and sports fandom. Like they don't actually have their community is themselves. Like I guess they're part of a bigger thing. The Buffalo Bill, like
or
they're part of
the Giants
or the Giants. But their relation to that thing, like, is not really articulated or it's only kind of gestured at because it's different than the obsessive fan that you would like typically conjure in your head.
Yeah, they're missing the community part, which is like kind of his whole thing, where he's like, "Well, I don't want that," and he's like really angry about not wanting that, but can't articulate what he does want. Like, I think there's ways outside of the mooching off his mom aspect, which I think is like undebatably like bad, like even for people that maybe like still live with family, like there are ways to do it that don't feel the way he does it, where it's like his mom washes his clothes and he like presumably maybe doesn't contribute a lot financially to what she has going on, or if at all. Like there are ways to do that where it's not like it doesn't have to be the way he makes it, but he's so I think angry and hateful about it that it ends up being like more toxic than it even needs to be.
Yeah, I have an uncle who lives with his mom still and is like slightly older than me, and has been like a high school sports coach for most of his life. And the thing that he leverages by living at home is he has been to like 60 countries or something, right? Yep. He's like, oh yeah, I live at home because I don't want to pay rent and I want to save money to go on these trips to like see the world, and that's what I love. I love going around the world. I love food from different countries. I love to explore stuff. And I couldn't do that if I was, making a high school coach's salary and da-da-da-da. Also, mom has, 6 kids and I'm the only one who's still here, whatever, right? And like that's a complex thing that we don't need to get into. But, that's viable for sure. I do sometimes wonder, and I'm curious because I want to go back, Janet, you said something earlier. I don't remember exactly what it was that made me think this, but one of the things I kept thinking about while watching this movie is it sometimes feels like it struggles to not make Paul more affable than or like to take his perspective, especially around the family, these stupid idiots from Staten Island who think they're so important. And part of that is just like, yeah, you cast Patton Oswalt at the height of his affability in the late 2000s when he's like doing shtick in the Patton Oswalt style throughout his family scenes, where he's in that character in such a way. And I'm curious if that feels like a decision or if that feels like a result of the way he's cast and the way the script was written. I feel
torn. Differently.
Really?
Really?
I think he comes across as really unbearable.
He's unbearable to me, but I feel like the movie wants you. There are parts in the movie where I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be like laughing along at his shithead family because he understands that they are not the big shots they think that they are.
It's interesting
me because I was like, that's not. It made me feel kind of like, does this movie understand that he's the way he is?
That's why it was a comedy? Question mark?
Right.
Like, I don't think this is a comedy.
Like, I'll give you a specific example, which is it's the birthday party early on.
Yes,
Rob, where the kid has the 50 cent get rich or die trying.
Oh
cake.
my God.
One of the best moments of the movie.
Great.
Get Rich or Die Trying.
a 7-year-old.
Yeah. And that is like an introduction to his family, and it's from his perspective as you kind of go around and you meet the Costco competitor guy. And that's written like something Michael Scott would be excited about in The Office. Like, oh, I have points on, they're going to be the next big Costco competitor. Where Costco's scared of us, And then you meet the lawyer, and the lawyer is like, or you watch the video of the ad for the lawyer, the TV lawyer, and it's in this very particular schlocky style, and they deliver that line that's like, we've been doing it for 4 years and counting, or whatever, right? Like, they're the joke, they're the punchline there, which could get a viewer on side with Paul going forward. And then for most of the first 2/3 of the movie, even, we spend time being like, oh, Paul, I hate that you're beating yourself up here, buddy, or the way he sneers at people, specifically his family, feels like they want to get the double punch in. And I get it. His family does kind of suck a little bit, right? But I think that it was partly it's struggling against Patton Oswalt just being the dude he is, which is like, there are times when he gets to be pathetic the way the script wants him to be, but there's a lot of times where he gets to be Werewolves and Lollipops or whatever the name of the album was, that Patton Oswalt. And that overawes the pathetic proto-incel,
It's funny. So I think the scene, especially the birthday party, feels like a scene that crops up in so many movies, right? There's shades of The Graduate, like people very self-important and saying like, I know what your life should be and all that. And he sort of, in a lot of these movies, the point of view character sort of sees through their bullshit. And it's like, I don't need what you're, I'm not buying what you're selling. I don't need what you're offering. But I think there's so much in that scene that is also, maybe these people are a little bit full of shit, but you're even worse. Like, genuinely, guys, just like, hey, you have a standing offer to like maybe get a decent job. Like, it's gonna be a move up from night shift at the parking garage where he is demeaned routinely, but he doesn't want it. He's too proud, too arrogant about it to sort of entertain that offer. He has such contempt for his brother and his wife and their materialistic lifestyle and their tackiness, but also you see him like sullenly eating that cake like a big fucking child, and it's so aggressively unpleasant. And we're just trying to have a decent family get together, and he's just being a little shit in a very childish way. I do think the movie is sort of getting a double punch in, but also I think Paul is so unbearable out in those scenes and then outside of them that I think the first time I saw it, I was a little bit like, I'm a little bit confused about where this is going. And now, like, this is my second time seeing it, and knowing now who Paul is, I was like, oh, no, like, kind of, he does just read as like kind of awful out of the gate. And there are elements of Patton Oswalt can't help but be kind of funny and sardonic in a lot of his delivery. But also he is just kind of an unbearable person to be around. He's so unbearable that by the middle of the movie, I'm more on Team Ambulance Chaser than I am on him. Like, I'm like, man, your brother kind of sucks, but like not as bad as you. In his way, he does like care a little bit.
I think it's the case that often in the scenes that we're talking about, when you have these sort of oppressive, we know it's better for you family, often a lot of those scenes are selling a fantasy. Like you're in the POV of the character, like, well, okay, like, it's a, what they want to go do sounds pretty fun. And I know that like you should probably do something else that your family's telling you to do. But like the fantasy that the movie is selling, like, I want to go watch those like wacky hijinks about what are about to occur with this character by telling his family to screw off. Here, by like isolating Paul is like utterly pathetic, like to the audience. Like when you contrast that with a family that is given the feeling of being oppressive and telling you what to do with your life, you cannot help but, like Rob, as you said, eventually side with them because I'm sorry, man. Like there's nothing on the table for me to like use as evidence against them. Unfortunately, you gotta hand it to them. You just gotta go to the Costco or whatever.
A few years later, like the feel-good version of this, I think, is Silver Linings Playbook, right? Where like the misfits are like, but damn it, we care about each other. Leave us alone, and the whole family. It's got a lot of the same touchstones. Tailgating. It's about the Philly fandom in that movie, but fundamentally, the family isn't necessarily. It's a similar dynamic insofar as like it is a family sort of trying to knit back together after some trauma. But ultimately, like that ends up on the sort of the kooky side of like, yeah, like I'm kind of rooting for the misfits to get it together here. And I think in the middle of this movie, you're kind of rooting for some kind of intervention because the thing that really takes things on this turn is that when he and Sal stalk Bishop through the night, first, when they end up in Manhattan, it is like they're aliens who have landed on a strange planet and are trying to figure out its ways. And like a $9 bud in a Manhattan strip club? What?
That's when I looked up what year was this movie made.
Genuinely, well, like I gotta tell you, a $9 beer today, a $9 bud would be too expensive today. No, I no. Bud is not expensive in this city.
No,
you can get a bud for under that. No, it's not a strip club bud. Maybe a strip club bud costs a little more.
Yeah, those are marked
up.
I
actually
it
saw
was in the bottle.
It was in the bottle. It wasn't on tap.
It was on tap.
Yeah,
so didn't even play for draft.
I was like, you know what? Maybe I complained too much about the drink prices in this city.
Yeah,
it could have been worse.
I don't know if vinepair.com is a reliable source, so apologies.
Please.
But
yeah.
Bud Light, average price of 16-ounce draft in bars, restaurants, and tap rooms.
Draft, though.
Illinois, $3.79.
Yeah.
New York,
Jesus Christ.
$4.74.
This is what
California, $5.16.
Yeah.
Hawaii, $5.50. What are we doing out there?
I don't know.
Good
so
boy.
I think you're not, again, I think that lines up, bro. I think that's the syntax, is like getting it at
the strip club. But
also,
you're right, Rob.
You're getting at the strip club, I'm sorry, you're getting a bucket.
You're getting well, they don't have.
Do these look like guys who have ever been to the strip club before?
And that's it. It goes back to Rob's initial
the
question,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
About gender and sexuality and where intimacy and any type exists in their lives.
My beautiful Sal thinks that lady wants to dance with him.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe later.
Dance? Okay, later.
I would love to later, but I'm working.
And
Also, the fact that he said he's working is really funny. It was like very like pseudo detective. I also will say, as far as like economic place markers for film, because this movie came out in 2009.
Yes.
Which is a few. What year did 40-Year-Old Virgin come out? 2005.
That's a good point.
Okay, so they're not that far apart, and 40-Year-Old Virgin has a similar joke where like the one guy who's also pathetic says it's $9 beer night, and like watching it now, it's like. Wait, hold on. What's supposed to... It's like, at the time that was funny because it was really expensive, and now it's like kind of regular / cheap. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting look at two when nerds get beers in the early aughts.
Well, and then the other half of this is actually, this movie, it seems like it takes place, it's definitely after 2007, because he has a 2007 poster on his wall. I did do the work. I tried to figure out if it lined up with any of the Giants season schedules.
He says Manning, right? So I'm assuming we're talking Eli Manning.
We're talking Eli Manning, Donovan
Is that
McNabb
a
era.
Patriots season? Like, this is the era of, like, when they're good,
Well,
right?
this is the thing. They win in this season. They win the Super Bowl, actually.
That's what I thought. That's what I didn't look up the number, but that was scratching at my head.
That's correct. And so, unfortunately, the movie doesn't reflect that. It's fine. It doesn't reflect any real season. The schedule doesn't match up in terms of when the teams are, like when the games are. But the thing that it does line up with is the beginning of the Great Recession, which I think also is kind of like in the background of all of this in a really fun way. Though, of course, as someone who is just working a kind of real basic sit in the parking lot security gate job, I don't know that he would feel it necessarily himself. But I wonder if his family is feeling it. I wonder if things are getting tight in that space. Also, just like he has a cell phone, but like he doesn't use it in his house. I'm really interested in what the late 2000s are in this movie.
Maybe he only has like
way.
the nighttime. Maybe the nighttime.
Right?
No, but the nighttime minutes should cover it if he's calling in at 2 a.m.
This is what I'm saying, Janet. Every time he's on the phone, I'm like, go outside on your cell phone.
And that's
Just
when
take
the
this
immersion
call.
broke for me because I know you have unlimited talk and text after 9 p.m.
I live
What
that
are
life.
you doing?
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Although
Maybe
he
it's
might be
his
saving
mom
money
probably
with
pays
pay
that
for
phone
minutes.
bill or
Oh,
something.
you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's pay per minutes. You're right. Yeah, that's possible.
probably
So
has
he's
to
just
pay
like,
for
you
minutes.
just use the landline for
Yeah.
for
He definitely he's giving because who is he called? Sal. That's it.
and Game
And the-
Dog,
The game sports dog.
Sports dog.
Sports Dog,
Who's clearly
D-O-G-G, not D-A-W-G. I looked it up.
Yeah, D-O-G-G. Right. Yes. He is clearly a Mike and the Mad Dog combination. They did the fusion dance.
Hold on. There's a decent chance. I'd say a pretty good chance the vast majority of people listening to this
Yeah.
have no idea what you mean.
Mike and the Mad Dog was a long-running Yes Network fan, WFAN sports talk show that ran for like 20 years in the New York area. Mike Francesa and what the fuck is
really
Mad?
pronounces it that way.
It is Francesa. Yeah, I had to go double check
shit.
it. Yeah. And Russo, Mike Russo, Mike Mad Dog Russo. We're just like a sports talk pairing that people loved, and they had a big public falling out. And Mad Dog went on ESPN for a while to work with Stephen A. They never had chemistry.
He was on First Take for
He was on
while,
First Take
right?
for a little while. Yeah, I tuned in to see what Mike Francesa was up to right after watching this. I was like, I wonder what Mike's doing these days. And I checked his most recent video, and he was complaining about the Superman movie. He said it was the worst movie he'd ever seen.
Oh, I saw that clip going around. That I forgot that was him.
So,
But was that like a coincidence scripted take, or is that like a? Because like you ever like dislike something, but then the people who dislike it are like vaguely shitty, and you're like, whoa,
not like that.
I'm
Not
Oh,
like
like
that.
Death Stranding.
I'm like gonna, yeah,
Death
yeah.
Stranding.
Last of Us.
No, that's
Last
if you
of Us.
like
Last
it,
of Us.
and it's like
Yeah,
no,
that's the
Death Stranding.
opposite.
It works the opposite way.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
a little
right. No,
bit.
wait a second.
It's
I
like,
do
do you
know
just
what
like
a
building
woman
bridges,
is in my real life,
or do you
actually.
kind of feel like this man can do no wrong? Like, which one is it?
Yeah.
I gotta know.
Pick a lane. But yeah, so I think that they.
But yes,
to
you're
me-
right. Is Last of Us like that too?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Mike and the Mad Dog fits into this slot. This is such a huge part. If people who are listening have not heard us talk about at some point sports radio culture, it's such a huge part of sports fandom even today. It's like one of the rare parts of radio culture.
I think it's probably more podcasts these days.
I guess
than it
so.
is, like,
But you
I
still
know
get the
sports
call-ins,
radio still
man.
exists,
The
but
call-in thing is so different though over radio. Like I remember, like these people become like Bomani Jones has talked about this. Like when he used to do regional radio in North Carolina, you have people are talking to you every week, basically, and they become like his career's gone other places. But there are still some people who he has a relationship with because like they were part of a night shift radio call-in community. That like you do, and this movie I think brings that out really, really well. They like his calls. He brings the energy. He's always sort of good to pop on the air. They can take 5 minutes and just sort of let him go. But also when things go bad, they are initially trying to be protective of him. They are concerned when first he's outed as like the guy who gets his ass kicked. But then when his mom gets on the phone, they can't help but bust out laughing because it is just too funny at that point. But like initially, this is the closest thing to people who like can reach him. And that's kind of a sad statement, but like these are the people he sort of that's his community.
I don't think they're people that reach him. I think they're people that prop him up. And I think there's a big difference because the people who reach him, he's like, I don't like how your touch feels.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But I like when my ego can inflate a little bit. And I think that's what's this movie is so like dark and depressing and stressful to watch. But like
Jesus Christ, it was stressful.
It's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say that I think that's really what you see him fall apart by his standards when he loses those things that he does have, which is it's like if you only have two things and they're both kind of gone, it's like, okay, well what's left? And it sort of drives him mad by the end.
So speaking of stress, various moments that make me just want to like fall through the floor and shrink to the size of an atom. When they send the drink over to Bishop, but they don't have enough money to pay for anything nice, so I swear to God, it looks like they sent him a screwdriver.
They did.
No,
They do. It
He
is.
did.
says, yeah,
They
it's a
did.
screwdriver.
Oh my
Yeah, it's a
fucking
It is
screwdriver.
God.
literally a
Confirmed.
screwdriver.
Yeah. And he sends
So
it back.
they sent him a well liquor screwdriver, almost certainly.
Yeah. And he's meanwhile being like, yeah, I bought 40 bottles. He's like bragging to the girls in the VIP booth or whatever, and his friends.
And even then, it doesn't initially go so horribly wrong. His entourage initially, they think these guys are funny. They read immediately, like, these guys are kind of loser fans. But like, hey, cool, you got fans. It's neat. Like, let's like have a laugh. Let's say hi to these guys. And then because Paul has no idea how to relate to people, he saw Bishop make a stop at a house in Staten Island. It's unclear why. Maybe he saw something he shouldn't have, but mostly the way he delivers this line. Yeah, I saw you make a little stop, and they names the neighborhood. And Bishop is like, were you following me? And the temperature around the table changes. And now the entourage is like, hey, everyone just calm down.
I had to pause the movie and walk around my whole apartment when he said the name of the neighborhood. I was like, no.
It sounds like he's about to start blackmailing him.
Right. That is what it sounds like. Yeah.
And
But even
Bishop,
then, his friends, some of his friends are like, just hold on. They're just fans. Even one or two of his friends try to calm him down in this moment.
no, everyone's trying to do the right thing except Paul and Bishop at that moment.
Yeah.
Like everyone is like kind of trying to do the right thing, but Bishop, half drunk, really paranoid about the invasion of privacy, knocks him on his ass and starts kicking his ass. Fade to black. Wakes up in the hospital. It's a pretty serious assault.
Bishop's also high in that scene, right, too? He does cocaine in the bathroom before he comes back out to the table? Or does he happen just to inhale when he comes out the stall?
I just remember him talking about the lady's ass.
Yeah.
He is talking about the lady's ass in the bathroom. Another great
But right
place.
before the ass.
Right.
I feel like he
Right
did
before
kind
the
of,
ass.
He does do one of these. Yeah, he does do one of these. Who could say? I do think that this sets up something that kind of separates this movie for good or bad, depending on your perspective, from other similar fandom gone wrong movies, which is that Quantrell Bishop isn't a character in this movie. You think about the King of Comedy. You think about The Fan from a few years before this. You think about Swim Fan. All sorts of movies with the word fan in it. And the object of affection and obsession is a person who has their own arc through the film, and their relationship with the fan gone wrong. Or at least there's a couple of big standout scenes where it's like, oh, there's a confrontation that you kind of sit with the awkwardness and the fear of the other person in a longer way. And here it just sparks, right? You get a lot of them looking at Quantrell, and then Quantrell freaking out and beating this guy up, beating him with an inch of his life. That if he'd hit him a few more times, he'd be fucking dead. It's brain damage, blood in the brain type stuff. And I do kind of. The movie should be the movie it wants to be. It wants to be a movie about Paul. I don't think it needed to be a movie about Quantrell Bishop also. But I could not take the end of this scene. I really love the build, but then it like blows up so quick because the movie needs it to blow up so quick. And I wish they had shown him do coke in the bathroom outright, because that might explain the immediate energy hostility of it. But it's like I don't know. I know that there are plenty of pro athletes and pro football players who we know have abused people, have hurt people. We know this sort of thing happens. I wish there had been something that made me feel like this moment had risen to that he'd risen to that response for some particular reason. But maybe I'm just wanting something that the movie doesn't want to give me, you know? Maybe it actually needs to not be worse.
Explainable.
Because Paul has to then be able to say, well, I was being weird and the situation got out of hand and you need to be able to buy that a little bit, that he could believe that. I don't know. But it just kind of happens in a way that I don't know that I that like didn't land for me fundamentally.
Spend a certain amount of the movie after the incident happens wondering how much of it was also partially self-preservation, and whether or not, if he told like the true story, whether or not it would seem weird that he was talking. Right?
Oh, right, 100%, right? Yeah.
But then I feel like at a certain point, it's like it feels like it definitely like just becomes like, no, he doesn't. He might not even care about that specifically as much as he cares more about.
Yeah, he wants this guy to come back to the team. Yeah,
100%. But like for a bit there, I could almost believe, right? Yeah. And it was like, oh god.
I think I'm kind of with you, especially because I think there's race is far from central to this. It lurks in the background. His family talks about that animal attacked you.
And we get a classic Italian slur from his brother. He calls him a mulignan. He calls him a nigger.
Yeah.
Like that's not. Yeah, 100%. It's there. Yeah,
I didn't even. So that is new to
he also
me because I'm not.
Says the word. He also says in a very pointed way, black in the bathroom scene.
Yeah,
that it's like it's like undercurrent, but it's like heavy.
Yeah,
it's like spikes when it's there.
Mulignan means eggplant in Italian, and it's like the classic New York Italian slur for black people.
So I think to an extent that complicates like how the assault reads, but I do think the way it is handled works well because your POV is Paul. He doesn't detect at all the temperature changing at the table. You can hear it in the background, the sound mix. You can hear everything going so fucking bad, and he can't tune in. You've got a lot of voices talking over each other, trying to talk Bishop down. Bishop is drunk off his ass and just locked on this idea of, have you been following me? And then he's just getting his ass kicked. But he misses the entire escalation. He misses the opportunity to leave because, like, he doesn't see people. He doesn't get cues like that. He doesn't. Right. He didn't see the guys at the table. All he's seen is this guy who also, in addition to being an object of his fandom, is also an object, I think, of like erotic power for Paul. Like the moment where they see him at the gas station. They're having pizza. We get close-ups of them eating their pizza, their greasy lips. Two dudes just staring into each other's mouths as they eat pizza. But then also, it sort of dawns on you when he's starting to have dreams of Bishop after the assault.
Yeah,
and Bishop is just like, oh shit, what's the music video? The famous music video, guy's totally naked, cut to like 90s music video. Fuck.
D'Angelo's?
Yes, D'Angelo.
Yeah, he is cut like D'Angelo in that. Yeah.
And he's shot like D'Angelo.
He is.
Like, it's wet. It's like, he looks like a god, and he just stares through the camera into Paul's
right above
soul.
him all night.
I was literally gonna say the poster with him shirtless in the
room. And they do
make
posters like that of every player, but most of the time, like, if you're just like, a fan like Paul purports to be would probably just have like a game day photo or a like one of those fathead stickers or something on the wall.
Remember fatheads?
Remember fatheads?
They don't.
Do they still sell those?
I think they do.
Probably.
But they don't go as far
I'll look
as
it up
to
on the
show.
side.
Yeah, please.
Paul has this like slightly beefcakey photo over his bed where he jerks it all the time.
I was going to say is they don't go as far as to show a direct connection between the two, but he's in a position where he would be able to see the photo.
He doesn't.
I don't think Paul understands the connection.
He ain't bringing up the Sears catalog. He don't got the computer.
No,
he don't got no
he's just
magazines.
in there. Huh?
You know?
Interesting.
He doesn't have the internet,
and he doesn't have the internet.
I mean,
right.
he's using, that's imagination.
That's
baby.
right.
Like
Old school.
that's brain power. I mean, you can make the argument like. I feel like some of the sexual tension stuff is a bit reaching. Like it's fun analysis. I'm not sure how much of that is in the text but
I think they have an intimate It's the only relationship they have, and they have an intimate connection.
I guess what I'm getting at is like I think that reading rings true because ultimately the movie is about like relation, like identity and relationships and how that grafts onto your personality and then what you project into the world. And I think that it's from there, it's then easy to read those the connective tissue between those two things.
The moment in the strip club scene that really speaks, Rob, to the thing you were saying about Paul not being able to pick up on these kind of cues is that Sal is the one who fucks up first. Sal's the one who says, "We came all the way from Staten Island." And at that point, I'm like, oh my God, why did you say that? And then Paul doesn't pick up that was already a mistake and doubles down. And it was like, oh, Staten Island, you know? And Paul doubles down to be like, yeah, we did a little stopover in town. And it's like, oh my God, like you already revealed that you followed them. And now you've revealed that you've like really followed them in the space that you really shouldn't have been in. Doesn't understand the connotations at all. The fact that he said that at all as if it would buy him points. You know what I mean? Like,
I have a question.
Share.
Yeah.
One thing this made me think of, you know, I've been in a long-term relationship long before the internet.
Yeah.
But like modern dating and relationships in which you can, like, let's say you just meet someone and then you decide to go on a date, or you get matched up, right? Like, at your fingertips,
cyberstalking.
So much,
cyberstalking.
Yes, but there is so much information that you could look up on a person that it is then now on you to figure out how you deploy that information in a way that does not result in you also getting the shit beat out of you, or like, it's interesting the way that like I could just not help but think about the complexities of like relationships these days where people's identities are public in a way that athletes' identities are public just by virtue of the stage that they exist on. Yet we all now in many ways exist on a similar plane with the stuff that we share online, and people can know that about us.
Right.
We're unique in that we're public, you know, like pseudo-public figures to a degree, but like everyone has some version of themselves online that people can then use to approximate things about us that can then creep into real life conversations that could definitely come across as unsettling.
Today, they would have been on IG Live before going to the club, and they would have just been able to be like, oh, we saw that you were in Stapleton on IG Live.
Yeah. Though I think that would feel a little bit more valid than what they did, because it's like, well, not that I don't think people should go to where you are just because you are posting where you are, but if you're posting where you are,
good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're posting where you are, like especially in a live club, and you're like, I think, you know, honestly, well, obviously it's just a movie, right? But like, it's funny. I watched this movie with my my brother who does basketball journalism, and he's like, honestly, he should have just had security because you cannot get that close to LeBron. Like, you never could. You could never say hello. He's like, you think I could just walk up to LeBron James and be like, hey man, what's going on?
Yeah, like the dudes around him are being paid to be his weed carriers and his bodyguards. Like, that's what they should. One of them should have stood up and made sure that Paul was separated from him.
The position of cupbearer has been around for millennia for this exact purpose.
That's right.
But
you need the dude who will go to jail for you. You know,
Quantrell isn't there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because when Paul shows up, he turns to his buddies and like, I told you I had fans. Like, it's kind of newish to him that he's the big man in the city now. And so he still mostly has the homie entourage who like can look the part of the heavies, but they're not actually going to be doing the like semi-trained security drill around him. They can't form the perimeter. They let this guy walk up because they've just all been drinking and hanging out tonight. It's a low-key night for all of them. They're meant to be sort of anonymous, but like, they miss the play until it's too late.
What position does he play? Is it said?
Seems like linebacker.
I assume he's pass rusher or like defensive end.
Defensive end, I think, is actually someone mentions it at some point.
Okay,
really funny because
many, like,
it's QB over everything, and it's like, wait, but he's not.
It's very funny they named him.
I mean, they do exist, right? You're the JJ Watts, Micah Parsons. Like, there are like line players that like become known quantities, but that's a certain amount of like sicko to like even know that for most people.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think
New York has a tradition of like defensive beasts.
That's definitely true.
Yeah. Well, and LT and all sorts of incredible players who've done that. And I do think it's also important. It's interesting that what position should he idolize, I think, is a really fun way to write this character. Because if he was a quarterback, like, oh, he's idolizing a guy who, calls plays and takes control of the situation and is a
smart
leader.
guy.
That's not who he idolizes. If he was idolizing the wide receiver, it'd be someone who is like has lots of flexibility and mobility and like gets open and finds himself freedom and out in the distance and scores big. He idolizes a guy who hits people really hard, who gets past people and then slams the enemy into the ground. Like that's who he picked to idolize.
And I think that totally like dovetails with he has a lot of masculine aggression that he has no real outlet. He has no idea what to do with it because he's barely aware that he feels it.
Yeah.
But he's also he's like about as far as you can get from being like hyper masculine or physically intimidating or imposing. And he has he has a position in society that like doesn't give him any sort of status or respect. And when you hear him on the radio, when he's writing these things, the giants are a vessel through which he's allowed to humiliate and talk shit to people. And so he is really drawn into that fantasy of dominance and brutality that Bishop like lives on the field. And the thing that like makes him feel like they're kindred spirits is that he's doing the same thing on the air every night on on the radio show.
Right. I'm the vanguard for your games. I'm the one out there.
Yeah.
Before you get out there, I'm already fighting the good fight against the damn Eagles or
Getting
whatever.
the 12th man hyped up.
That's right. Well, and I think to some degree this also speaks to the other psychological thing that's happening in the following scenes, which is like he doesn't want to bring charges against him. He doesn't want to sue him. Like, yes, I think Janet, you're right. His primary motivation is, I want my dude back on the field. I don't want to ruin our season, blah, blah, blah. But there is also kind of a part of him that feels like he's like, that's a coward's move. I'm not going to sue somebody because they hurt me. I'm not going to press charges. Like, he doesn't say that wouldn't be manly, but I don't think it would be very Quantrell Bishop of him, to win a fight in that way, I think that there is something about like what he thinks a good person looks like on top of everything else. That he doesn't quite. I don't know if he has a coherent answer to what that is. But for instance, we know he doesn't like that his sister's husband was having an affair with her before the two of them hooked up. That's another one of those scenes, Rob, where I was like, this thing wants us to side with him because his mother is so offended by him saying the word fuck. And he says like, oh, is it worse for me to say that my sister was fucking the dentist behind the dentist's wife's back than it is for him to have fucked her? That's like a classic, boom, gotcha.
It's the only good point he's made the entire movie. It's like I was like wrote down like, oh, good point.
Yeah,
like,
you got us there.
Worst guy you know has made a good point.
Yeah, worst guy you know has made a good point. At least it was early enough in the film where it's like he could kind of not go either way, but it was unclear. Like I didn't know anything about this movie until I watched it. Like I knew literally nothing. I just knew that I needed to watch it for work. And I put it on, and it was on Tubi. So shout out to Tubi.
Shout out to Tubi. So many good movies on Tubi.
It's also on Prime.
It's literally on Plumbo.
Exactly.
Tubi, Plumbo, all
Timby or some
fucked up names.
Yeah, I feel like I think there's an element of we know that he looks down on like people that sue in part because he looks down on like his lawyer. I forget, is that his brother or brother?
His brother.
Yeah.
brother. That's his actual brother. Yeah.
So it's like, sure, but I think that is a moral position of convenience.
Right.
Like I think it's one of those things where you have like, it's almost like the people who boycott stuff they never were a fan of. They're like, oh, I'm not going to use this because it's wrong. It's like, well, you were not using it anyway. So it's not really, it's like, but it's really convenient because you can position yourself as having this moral high ground. And I think he's doing the same thing where it's like he has beef with his brother, like just on a base level and sort of uses, oh, I'm not going to be one of those people suing for like the hot wop or whatever. Because you see in his eyes in that hospital room when the gears turn where he's like, oh, is he going to get in trouble for this? And it's like, probably. And he's like, oh, like, I don't know what's going on,
The speed with which he realizes what's happened is unbelievable. And again, this might just be efficient, like, screenwriting because we have to keep the pace moving. But the second he wakes up, he's like, what was the score, right? Which is like, oh my God, this obsessive dude is like, all he cares about is that. Sal tells him that they lost. And then he instantly goes like, Quantrell got suspended, didn't he? right? Like immediately understands what the repercussion was.
Well, also, I think the thing with him just dragging his brother over the affair, that kid is 7. That's a 7-year-old's birthday party.
Yeah.
It's like there is a point where you just got to stop. Like, families are messy and life moves on. At a certain point, you can't be like this shitty. You can. I mean, you can hold on to whatever you want.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you are not being the good guy necessarily to be like holding this affair over your brother and like rubbing your mom's face in it a decade later after like that they've started a family together. It's like it just doesn't. He's groping for this high ground just to try to make himself like feel better, and to make his mom feel like shit. But it doesn't actually like accomplish anything. It doesn't communicate. There's nothing. It doesn't defend him at all. So yeah, but in the wake of the assault, he does quickly realize that his team's doing badly in some ways because of him, and also now everyone begins expressing more directly their concerns about his relationship to the Giants. Matt Servito is a detective assigned to his case and is just trying to get a statement where he confirms that indeed he got his ass kicked by Quantrell Bishop, and he keeps being evasive. And eventually Servito just like tracks him down outside his house, and he realizes like this little dweeb with all his little Giants gear, his little hip holster Giants cell phone bag.
The phone clip's really what did it, because the hat,
wild.
it's like maybe you're just cold.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Who doesn't have the cell phone clip, the cell phone holder?